All right, we've got FS1 analyst Chris BROUSARD joining us. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Good to be here.
Good to see
Happy
you.
Mardi Gras.
Yes, that's
Cajun
right.
brother.
My man.
Okay.
All right, now. You know that's how we do. Let's talk Lakers. Now, they lost 2 games this weekend, including one to the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, the same Suns who've got the worst record in the league. Them. The Lakers are now 4.5 games out of the 8th seed. LeBron's in jeopardy of missing the playoffs for the first time since 2005. After the game, he was asked about just how frustrated he is. Chris BROUSARD, what do you make of the Lakers' 2 losses over the weekend?
Well, the first game, Milwaukee, they played well early on. And as somebody that picked the Lakers to make the playoffs, I'm not speaking as a fan, but as an analyst, what we want is to be right. So I picked the Lakers to make the playoffs. Important. So I
try to tell him, please. It's about, he thinks that just a name. No, bro. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
So
as somebody pulling for the Lakers to make the playoffs because I want to be right, I was encouraged initially, but what the problem against Milwaukee is the same problem they've had all year. They can't close. Despite having LeBron, they can't close. You saw it in their first 3 games of the season. Portland, Houston, San Antonio. They had the chance to win all those games, couldn't close. And here's the stat. They are one of 5 teams in the NBA that has been outscored by 80 or more points in the fourth quarter. And the other 4 teams are the worst 4 in the league. Phoenix, New York, Cleveland, and Chicago.
Yep.
So, and then on top of that, how many games have we watched them build a nice third quarter lead and then let it go?
Well, listen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the Milwaukee game, the problem in that Milwaukee game has been the problem basically since the last couple months, certainly since LeBron came back from injury, which is that whatever lead they build in the first quarter or third quarter is given away instantly at the beginning of the second or the beginning of the fourth because Luke Walton inexplicably insists on playing LeBron and Ingram the entirety of the first and the third, so they are both sitting at the beginning of the second and the beginning of the fourth. In the Milwaukee game, the lineup he ran out there to start the second and fourth, it was KCP, Hart, Kuzma, JaVale and one other. No, JaVale wasn't even out there. Muscala and one other guy. It doesn't matter. LeBron and Ingram both on the. Rondo was the other one. They were outscored by 15 points in a minute 55 in those 2 quarters combined before you made an adjustment. There's the difference. And then at the end of the game, when they have opportunities, they cannot close it out. They're up 2. They get a stop. LeBron turns it over. They go down. They have the terrible inbounds play with KCP that lost the game. It's disaster against them.
It's hard to close when you can't shoot free throws.
Oh, free throws. They can't shoot the basketball. They're one of the worst shooting teams from the 3-point line. They're one of the worst free throw shooting teams. All right, and they're a bad defensive team. How are you going to win an NBA game? So, yes, we did pick. The only one amongst those is Mannix, a friend of the show, Chris. He picked them not to make the playoffs. I thought that was more a little thing at LeBron, the East Coast, Cleveland type thing, because he's been punch drunk the last several years. But Mannix is trending to be right in this. And to me, it's not about, it's what do we see? They don't look like a playoff team. All right? They do not shoot the basketball well, and that's based on how this roster was put together. Now, there's a lot of teams in the NBA that they looked at their team, say 3 weeks before the trade deadline, and say, what can we do to get better? The Los Angeles Lakers are one of the few teams that were in contention that did not get better at the trade deadline. The moves they made did not help them. They did not get better as a shooting team. The continuity, we don't know what type of lineup. Now they seem to be forced to play these players.
They can't play a center because they traded away their best center for Mike Muscala.
Now what they were trying to do is correct the problem of not having any shooting, so they went out and got 2 shooters, Bullock and Muscala. Bullock's had his moments. He's been okay. Look, Muscala, I get the thought process, but Zubac was like you said,
center.
He was their best offensive
And Muscala,
center.
if you traded for him, you got to play him.
Right.
Like you don't have any type of.
But they tried, and then you saw he couldn't do.
They don't listen. The front office has done terribly. The head coach has been, to me, a disaster, and he's going to get fired. But that might excuse losing to Milwaukee, blowing a game against the best team in basketball. And I know I interrupted you just so you weren't able to get to it, but nothing excuses what happened Saturday night. That loss against Phoenix, where. Speaking of Zubac, he said it after the Clippers beat the brakes off the Knicks yesterday. He said, we never had games like like this with the Lakers, where we just routed a team. You're supposed to rout the Suns. Instead, they were down by 17, and once again, you're fighting uphill all game against the worst team in the league.
Chris Broussard, I don't think it's fair, especially out of respect for LeBron, how consistent he's been over the last 8 seasons. But Nick and I have been talking about this for a couple weeks. Can LeBron James still be the best basketball player in the world by title if the Lakers do not make the playoffs?
My feeling has been this. LeBron has earned the benefit of the doubt. Kind of what you said, where I'm not going to judge him off of, 12 games coming off injury and take the mythical title from him of best player in the world. But if they don't get to the playoffs, then I don't think he's the best player in the world anymore. And part of that's watching it. Like, watching it, he hasn't been the best player in the world. He's not going to be first team All-NBA this year. And I can't even blame the 6-12 record without LeBron on them not making the playoffs, because they've had so many bad losses with LeBron since he's been back. Now, you talk about health, whatever. We judge other players. If you're playing, you're healthy, according to us.
Yes.
So I'm not giving that excuse. So losses to Atlanta, Phoenix, Memphis,
the Pelicans
New Orleans.
Without Anthony.
Yeah, I can't. So like I said, he's earned the benefit of the doubt. He's earned it where I'm not going to judge him off these 12 games. But if they don't make the playoffs, and especially if they keep losing like this, no, he's not the best player anymore. Because what I see is he's still putting up great numbers. But he can't, or at least he hasn't been controlling a game like he has throughout his career. Right. So now there comes a point in a great player's career where you can still get numbers, but you can't control the game the way you have in your prime. And right now, that's what it's looking like.
It's going to be the first time in a decade that the general consensus is that he's not the best player in the world. I can't go from how clear and obvious and enormous the gap was 9 months ago to say someone has overtaken him when we don't even know who that someone would be.
Durant.
Well, maybe the only thing you have
Giannis.
to change, though, if you change how far they were behind him. If you just forget about reanalyzing LeBron, but we didn't think that the other players were that far behind LeBron.
Not 9 months ago. I mean, there were people saying
not
Durant.
James Harden.
And there were people saying Durant was the best player already.
If James Harden, Durant, and Steph. I could say Giannis was a long way away. But if James Harden wins that series, if Chris Paul stays healthy, he wins that series, we're not talking about James Harden?
I think there's a little revisionist history going on what the commentary was surrounding LeBron when he hit the second game winner of the playoffs, when they were what he was doing in Game 7 against Indiana, Game 6 and 7 against Boston, Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the Warriors. That's what I'm talking about 9 months ago. Now,
but there were some people, and I was agreeing with you that LeBron's the best. But there are a number of people that think Durant.
I thought Kevin Durant was so close after 2 Finals MVPs and the head-to-head battle. It was clearly those were the 2 best players.
So that to me that's where I'm saying I think people are maybe hazy on the history a bit. Durant was getting killed in that Houston series. He didn't take the shot in the one game, then he didn't take it again in the next game. They're down 3-2. The gap seemed enormous. Now, someone is going to get the title. The figurative title belt is going to be handed over. I don't know to whom. To me, there's 4 guys in the running for it. Harden, Giannis, KD, and Steph are all eligible for it this postseason. I don't think LeBron is done being the best player in the world, but if you don't make the playoffs any of the last 5 years, if he didn't have the playoff run that he had, he would have given it up then because he wasn't the best player in the regular season.
Well, you wonder, too, will people start looking, and I wouldn't judge it off this year, but going forward, will people start looking at, well, he did that in the East? Because the West, he could
say that.
Yeah, but he could coast like this and pace himself in the East and just take over. I mean, he said he's activating himself, playoff LeBron, and we haven't really seen any difference, so.
All right. Well, thankfully, you're sticking around, Chris Broussard. We're going to see you later in the show. But next, did